Good evening, and welcome. It's a nice crowd here tonight. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sandy Gibson Quigley. I am the other half of Doug Quigley, and his kind of assistant. Doug Quigley, who is the president of the Historical Society, is not here this evening. Doug is in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And I'm going to do a little, because as a history teacher, I'm going to do a little history lesson. This weekend is the anniversary of when Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address. And so since 1866, there has always been a Remembrance Day with ceremonies held at Gettysburg. And again, the Gettysburg, as we know, the battle took place July 1st through 3rd, 1863. But in November, on November 19th, 1863, they dedicated the cemetery, National Cemetery, for the soldiers at Gettysburg. Part of the battlefield is the National Cemetery. So they have a Remembrance Day there. In Douglas, and it's usually various ceremonies, and there's a major parade done by the Sons of Union Veterans, Sons of Confederate Veterans, in the GAR. And my husband Doug plays the fife and marches with the group every year for this program. So, anyways, that's where Doug is tonight. This is you, but this comes first. Any of you who know Doug knows that comes first. I have a couple of announcements, and then before we get to tonight's program. First off, as always, we wish to thank the Public House for hosting these events. Their generosity is unmatched, and we really appreciate it. We have the 1838 Sturbridge Agricultural Fair poster for sale, and you will hear about the Agricultural Society Agricultural Fair a little bit tonight, I believe. They're for sale $30, and again, we also have a membership appeal. We'd like you to either sign up or renew your membership yearly for $10. It's a good deal. Yes, we have these programs open to the public, but your membership helps pay for programs, and we've got a really nice projector this year that allows us to show some of these programs, so we appreciate having members. Our next program is January 18th. We usually, in the past, we've always combined the November-December programs, and usually do the first week of December. But the Public House is doing really well this year with programs, and they said, December doesn't look good for us to have programs. So we did it tonight, and then our next program will be January 18th, and you'll get information on that. The program is going to be called Needle and Thread, the Art and Skill of Clothing, 19th Century Family. Derek Heidemann, who is the Director of Collections and Research at Old Sturbridge Village, will be here to talk about his book that they just published last year. They'll talk about what it took to keep a family in clothes, including how you make them, how you wear them, how you wash them, etc. Derek is always an interesting person to listen to, so we hope you'll join us then. Tonight's program, Sturbridge Then and Now. We're bringing together two local residents who we found out have similar interests in collecting the history of Sturbridge. Bob Arnold, a freelance photographer, amateur historian, and avid collector of all things Sturbridge, and I will tell you that's true. I can't tell you, probably a month doesn't go by where Bob doesn't contact Doug and say, oh, got a new thing for you. Have you seen this? Send it over to you. He, in addition to serving his clients throughout New England, Bob's been documenting life in our community since he and his family moved here in 1970. His work over 50 plus years has yielded a unique perspective on the commercial, cultural, and environmental changes in our community. Bob still lives in town with his wife Susan, their dog Jessie, and his thousands of images. Wally Hersey hasn't been here quite as long. Wally grew up in Medfield, where he refined his interest in local history, moved to Sturbridge, And he became interested in Sturbridge local history, and he too is a collector. You probably, if you're on Facebook at all, that's how I got to know Wally. I started seeing his stuff showing up on Facebook and thinking, who is this? What's his stuff? Where's he got his stuff from? He collects a lot of stuff as well, and I'll tell you, he was dogged. He pursues information on the internet. You just have to ask him a question, and within a short amount of time, Wally is back to you with information about it. He is also a photographer, and today he lives here in town with his wife, Mary. He's retired as a registered nurse. He's active on various town boards, and he volunteers at Tanglewood. And he writes for the Historical Society, and he runs our Facebook page. So Bob and Wally are sharing tonight really, I would say, a small portion of the kind of information that they have. We had to sort of say, really, we only want to do this for an hour or so. They'll come back with more at another time, but they're just going to give you a little bit of what they're sharing. So I welcome you, welcome tonight, Wally, for a seat in Bob. Thank you.
What I have to do before I start is I have to make my point from work. Thank you very much, Sandy. And my name is Wally Gersey, as you just heard. And welcome everybody here tonight. I hope tonight, with this talk we're going to do tonight with Bob and I, is going to be part learning and part waxing nostalgic. And there's some people here like myself who haven't been here that long. I've only been here since 2000, and that's it. 23 years. And Bob has been here. Bob was one of the original settlers here. But there's been a lot of people who've been a lot longer. There are people like myself that are newer. Some people just came last year, and then there are people who've been here all their lives and they'll share. So I hopefully will show some things here then and now. Bob had a great idea of showing what is now and what was it before, and then vice versa. Change happens very, very gradually. And everybody talks about change in town. It's not really good where you're going to see things that have happened in the past 40 years.
Wally, louder, please. Can you use the mic?
What I'm saying. Okay. Thank you. This is better. Now it's like the way this. Okay, so we'll talk about this. I'll see if this thing works. This picture here, Bob went up in an airplane just recently. He's been up in planes for 40 years. This is most recently in the past month and a half of the seaboard rolls. This thing here is a picture of McCarley Jonathan. I did this here early enough to go to Jonathan back in the 70s. And this is where the jug handle is in 76. This is where the jug handle was in Cedar Street and Route 20. This is really cool in the town that's here. There was a craft store in there. They sold furniture. They had an 1899 restaurant was here. Unfortunately, this was the love of everybody in town until it burned out in the 1970s. There was nothing really left of it. But in the meantime, the restaurant inside was a place for coffee in the morning. There was a lot of people, crafts. Now, this is 1976. You didn't seem to let it up there. And this is the kind of furniture we had in 1976. It was chunky, it was big, it was thick, the clocks were all big and thick. It was the bicentennial. This was very much in vogue back then. You weren't anybody, but you had a circular braided rug in the living room. And one of these in your bedroom. But times have changed. In the store, you can see there's the 76, the bicentennial was there. And the young lady here at the cash register, which is not visual, by the way. And she's not on her phone, she's probably helping a customer. But all these things here, it not only evokes the time, and the time you're trying to tell what Sturbridge is all about, the old colonial things, but it's also an artist, 1966. It doesn't seem to be a book. And looking at the pictures here, you can tell it was a while ago. No black and white picture of that. It was probably in the late 70s. 80s, yeah. This is what it is today. Now, I'm told, little building here wasn't there then. It was moved from someplace else. Fast until this moved behind here. To the building we were fast. A lot of issues. At that same intersection of Route Cedar Street and Route 20. This was probably around 1895. Right around the time, right a couple of years before Trolley started going through. This is the DPW. And they're yelling at people over that house when they're clearing their sidewalks. But the same picture here, the same scene. You see the stagecoach. And that stagecoach went from Worcester to Springfield, and it went down the road. This here is with the first lane, the trolley tracks. They're digging it up and they're going to widen the road. The road would become a lot wider here. In fact, you'll see a couple of frames from now, you'll see what has happened since that time, where the road once was. This here is after all that digging was gone, and the trolley in Sturbridge and Sturbridge Street Railway Company. Now originally, that street railway went from Southbridge, stopped at a little park where Jason Cannon was. And there was the trolley companies would do back then. They would put parks in different places to attract weekend ridership. They had Norumbega Park in Boston, they had all these other parks all over Silver Lake. And they usually they would stay there after the trolleys left. The parks would still stay there after the ball games. And the big band would that middle of the floor. We had one of our own here, but didn't last until at that time. It was closed down in 1910, but it was very good park. But these tracks here eventually were extended, and they went all the way to Springfield. And they went from there, comes beyond. They went to Albany, down to New York City, but that didn't last too long. This house here, you can tell here, that's the Cedar Street Grill. That's the Cedar Street Coffee House, cafe. This is the White Farm. And right over there is where basketball is. This view here is today, well actually 2005. If you see right here, that's where the road was originally. Curved off this way later on. Actually, Main Street went down here and curved down this way. This is 2005. You can see back here, the parking lot, the extended parking lot for the White Farm is not even shown. This is 2023. We all went out in the canvas of town taking up-to-date pictures. And this is almost the exact same view as you saw at the very beginning with the trees there inside. A lot of changes. Changes is happening pretty gradually. The cheese house. This is an important story. This picture just like this, is in the Smithsonian Institute, the Library of Congress. There's a book that was made by a very famous photographer, and he photographed this, and his photos were used for the postcards later on. It was his primary day. But this scene right here, black and white by Bob, and the mouse on top there. And I think this is not a major store, but it says they're advertising coffee. Bacon talks to their coffee. Cheese house and stuff. I forgot. This is it today. The road is wider. You don't go to the front door. The Bernardi's has been there for years and years and years after the cheese house went out of business. A lot has changed. I have a postcard of the cheese house from back in the day, and the background is not Sturbridge. It was very generic postcards. If you're finding it on eBay or whatever, it's cheese house in Sturbridge.
Louder.
Can't hear you.
We can't hear you. Hold the mic up.
Is that better?
That's
Yeah.
Thank you. This is important because this building has been here for a very, very long time. And right now, we're very, very used to eating at the duck there. And it's sort of a casual area. And over here at Adelino's for a more refined dinner. This is what it always was. It was a private home for a long time. And then after that, he sold antiques.
This is 1976. This building here, the barn, was moved and attached to this building here. Been a lot of changes since then. That Volkswagen is still there. Now, the American Legion post, this is significant because this honors two veterans in town. Two veterans in town. Jeff Hill and Lowry, both who gave their lives in the war. Jeff Hill had died in World War I. Elijah had died in the war. This has been the scene of an awful lot of sales, Christmas tree sales, a lot of things over the years, dinners, things, all sorts of things. And it's a good meeting place for all of our veterans here at the Legion. But before it became a American Legion Hall, it was the Church of the Advent. This is around 1900. But you can tell, if you look at this, not much has really changed. They did take the steeple off. But this part here is, you almost envision that the canody's not there.
It was the church of what?
The Advent. It was a Protestant church. We had, at this time, we had a whole bunch of churches on Main Street in Fiskdale. We had the Church of the Advent. We had the Baptist church a little further down on the right-hand side, on the northern side of Good County. A little bit further down from that, we had St. Patrick's Church, the Catholic Church. And up on the hill, we had St. Anne's, which they would call back the day, or end of the 1800s, and concentrically they called it, on the maps it would have R.C. French. It was Roman Catholic French Church. Because there are so many French folks had come down from the provinces to work in the mills. So there was a very, very big French population down there in Fiskdale. Now this one is Otis Block. Otis Block. This picture here is from a woodcut that was made to do with one of those bird's eye maps that you see a lot of towns have. Sturbridge have one as well. This is in the upper part. Bob took this thing down. Bob's really excellent at taking pictures and maintaining the resolution so you can see all the detail here. In the Blackington building, which is the building it is, but it's called the Otis Block. It's official name for it. In fact, underneath there, somewhere in this area here, it still says Otis Block underneath one of the signs. It talks about, there's a market, LeClaire Market, Callahan Dry Goods is in here, and groceries, and PC Hooker, and I don't know what this says. I think it's a drugstore. It's in there as well. 1976, it changed. There was the neat thing about this says a lot. We changed an awful lot in the past 50 years. There's a grinder shop here. Over here, where next is today, is the Sturbridge Pharmacy and bottled liquors, which is medicinal. And this is for those people who know that. It's a telephone booth. This house over here was recently demolished this past year. And it's sitting there empty for many, many years. And it's now a regular duplex. Today, in 2023, we have this. So much has changed here. The awnings from the pizza place are gone. It's now, they still have the Blackington building here on the side, but the Otis Block is the sign is somewhere on here in the front here. And that's what I should refer to. That is the Otis Block. The fire around store in there is no longer there. There is a physical fitness place in there, and I believe there's an antique place in there as well now. And the pharmacy liquor store is no longer there. Back around the late 1980s, they widened Route 20. So you see that the road became a lot wider. You didn't have as much parking space as you did back in the 1970s. These little gradual changes over time, with in front of the Cedar Street coffee house with the trolley and stuff, the roads got wider. They realigned them. They changed them. Most of the buildings have all stayed the same. Now, the fairgrounds. Fairgrounds, at one time, all the South Worcester County Agricultural Society would meet on the town common. They meet the town common, they would have they'd show their cows and horses, they'd have events there on the thing. And also on the town hall, that's where the agricultural building. The first floor was built as a one-story building, and that's where all the prizes would be given for vegetables and all that sort of stuff. That's where the offices were for these, Worcester County Agricultural Society. When they outgrew that space, the town said, we can have some space too, so they built a second floor there. That's when the town came and took offices on top of our town hall. But when they outgrew the space in the common, they don't want to have the affairs there because it was just so little room. They went here. That's where they went. This is 1975. There's no sign of that old fairground there now, except for right here. That's the only thing you really see in this building there. That was the offices in the exhibition hall, fairgrounds. This here, that is where I believe Wendy's Burger King is today. And if you look at it, there are two arched stone walls that go inside there. That was one of the main entrances to get into the fairgrounds at the time. It's right there. That is no longer there. It's changed. 1985, what ended up happening was they built the hotel. That's a Sheraton back then. It's a Host Hotel today. Yankee Spirits is going in here. They built a brand new store. The seafood place is a seafood place back then. This Burger King, that road right there, that's where the road was, where the main entrances where the stone walls were. It just went straight up there to the Sheraton. McDonald's. And this little piece of land here is still undeveloped. So many years later. And here's this is the South Worcester County building with all the exhibits we've been shown. What you're seeing here is sort of a hybrid version of it, because this section here back there, that was added many, many, many years later. That wasn't there during the time of the affairs. This is what it looked like in 2005. Piccadilly Pub was down in the basement, the lower level there. There's an antique store up here. The top floors were no longer people that came to see those up there. They were shut off to the general public. Back in 1900, this is where you would have your exhibits for the same thing at Woodstock Fair. You'd have your linens, your basket wood goods, flowers, arrangements, all that sort of stuff would be here. Vegetables, that stuff would all be shown inside there for the fair on both floors. Upstairs would be more offices up in this space. This is looking towards Main Street from the racetrack. Originally, there were horse races out there. At one time, the horse races in Sturbridge were looked forward to. And they also, after a period of time, they would race cars and motorcycles there too. This is what the horse races were. And everyone would park their cars here. This is around 1930. Back around 1960, they had a venue called the Citro, Casual Tire. Welcome. This is more of a restaurant like spot they had in town. This went through many different types of incarnations over the years. 1975, another Bob Arnold photograph. This is, if you look up here, this is all added on. There was dancing and things like this, called Fairgrounds, up there at the top there.
Drive-in theater?
Yes, there was a drive-in theater one time on the fairgrounds. It's in the background. In fact, Butch, you told me one time when you were younger, you could watch from a window at the cottage years ago on the other side of the lake, right? Yeah. And they played mostly B movies. I have a couple of posters in my basement downstairs, and there were movies that they didn't hit the big theaters. They hit the smaller theaters, the drive-in theaters, and they'd be like Marines are coming or something like that. With not Ronald Reagan, but that's what happens. is the beginning of the end, 2016. When CVS had bought the land, and they didn't want to spend the money to do anything with the building, and it was taken down. First of all, they removed anything that was usable from the building and boarded it up. And that's it today. Taken from the same spot as here, a couple of years later. Hometown Bank. Interesting. Back around 1895, 1900, this little building here, that was a substation, a power station for the trolley. That's it today. I'm sure a lot of people here recognize this. This is Paul Plaza. Paul Plaza right now, and a new home to the Worcester South Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Center, which is over this way. This was built. This building here is a gorgeous building. This was built purposely for Hebert Candy back around 1959, 1958. Candyland. Let's bring back some memories. A few pounds. I remember going there. Oh gosh, right before they closed, a few companies before they closed, and they would be making lots and lots of candy down in the basement too. Down there. This is significant because this is great advertising. This construction of this stonework was by Dominic de Gregorio for Hebert Candies, 1958 to 1961. Did this all by hand himself. If you look at the top here, he put this plaque in himself. He wrote down residence in Sturbridge, Mass. So he could get some more work from that. I'm sure he did. The post office, this little guy right here, he was built in 1958 during the Eisenhower administration. A lot of post offices, a lot of towns got new post offices, and Medfield got one and Grove at the same time. This was made to, this was a small little city, a small little town. We didn't have a whole bunch of people there. But there was another post office. This was on the common on Charlton Street. As you first go down Charlton Street, the first house that faces the road on your right-hand side was a little gift shop. This was the house before the Yellow House. That's it. The Yellow House uses a landmark all the time. Right in front of this house now, between is the witness tree. They took down these big, huge trees that was diseased a number of years ago, and they put up what they call a witness tree there. Speaking of post offices, there's another post office. This one came probably before the one I just showed you. This was right across on the common on Chamberlain Street. Chamberlain Street is on the back side. This here is Corey's and Son. There's a mercantile. There's a general store. Over here at the very end piece, there was where there's an apartment now, was a stable. Speaking of post offices, there's another one. Across the street on the other side, where Sadie Greens is today. This here is another Sturbridge post office. I'm not sure whether it was because our population was changing or the postmasters were dying. Because what happens was that the government didn't give you a building to have a post office in it then. The big cities didn't have that. Small rural places had to fit it in where they could. Somebody was appointed a postmaster. They were given mailboxes. They usually would pass the post office depending on where it was. And they put it where they were. Most of the time it was where there's a mercantile or a general store was in. This is where there's a general store. These folks up front were all workers there. This job here, she just retired. She didn't work with the post office since. Another post office. There used to be a barn where the new Tillier building is beside the public house. The beautiful new 28 rooms that was built there 5-7 years ago. This barn was there. It is now removed and it's moved out back of the public house. There was a Mr. Latour's variety store and a post office. I'm not exactly sure how long this post office was in effect variety store and the Sturbridge post office. 1988, with Howie and I don't know who the other guy is. That's a great picture. Now, the center office building, actually, it looks like the opening scenes from the movie Children of the Corn. But this is now the center office building. This was the school at one time. This child here is lucky enough to have ridden his bike there. I'm sure it was like 4 miles away too. What do you notice about the class? Huh? What do you notice about the class?
Dress.
Dress? Yeah. That's it. There was a whole bunch of diversification back then. Good. And at this 1910, you saw that in a lot of towns. Here it is in 2008, the Gold Star Monument in the front. This is right before they decided to do it over again and make it into an office building. This is what it was, I think it was sitting fallow, and nobody knew exactly what to do with it. They had ideas. Now, you're driving outside here, Haynes Street, and you're coming up Haynes Street, and Town Hall's right in front of you. This house here is exactly the same as it was there. They did move the porch up a little bit further, but it's exactly the same. It was George Haynes' house. They would make carriages and windmills there. Around the corner, they'd be making carriages and other things and furniture. This church here is no longer there. That burned down in 1908. It hit by lightning. And there was a Paul Revere bell up there, which was saved. But they built this church over again. In the meantime, in 1880, this is the second floor that they added with the Worcester South Agricultural Society. They put that on there, and the town offices. Portico isn't there. There's a horse shed here. This is what they changed here. They added the portico, the columns, they brought the roof out. Horse shed is still there. This house here is still exactly the same. And it's a rental unit. The house is owned, and I know the people who live there. This right here, you'll notice, these are beginning to be telephone wires and telegraph wires. This is the way it is in 2023. Underneath here, there is, underneath all the woodwork and stuff, on the building, there is this sign here. It's still there. And I think it says agricultural hall. Good eyes. And it's still under there. The Federated Church beside it, as I said earlier, had been struck by lightning and burnt to the ground. This church also burnt to the ground a couple of years after a very famous tree on the common right behind here. It's called Sturbridge maple. There are postcards out there of it. That got hit by lightning and burnt to the ground. And it was so well known and so well loved that they would actually take pictures of it and send out postcards of this tree. They didn't learn. They didn't have lightning rod in this church. It had burnt down. And this was a typical New England type of church that you'd see anywhere from Vermont to Massachusetts to Connecticut. And they rebuilt it. This is sort of an arts and crafts type of thing at the time, in 1920. And it was totally different. Bob refers to this version of the church as the Coast Guard station. It looks like it should be up in Grace Point down the Cape. It has that exact same cedar shingles and that architecture, and I can see it. They did change the color back in 1954. And around 1957, 58 or so, they began to do some other changes to it as well. And finishing it around 1961. And what you see now They reinvented the church. They moved things up, they moved things off to the side. I have no idea what the floor plan is now, what was old, what was new. But this is where we are today. And it fits in very, very nicely. And the bell rings, it's great. Sturbridge Common. Sturbridge Common is pretty much unchanged since 1738, when we got it from the Saltonstall family. Right here, if you see, there used to be a whole bunch of little roadways going through here back at this time, over 100 years ago. There's only one now. All these houses are the same, except for this house here down the end. That's a different color now. It's a house of a different color. 1875. It really hasn't changed much since 1875, with the exception of this. Does anybody know what that is there on the common? It's a shoe factory. Now, when you had common land, the whole thing was to have common land. This was the common people. They had agriculture, the cows would graze, everything you needed to. It was for the people to have land in common. There wasn't supposed to be any commercial things on there. But the selectmen worked out a deal. Morse was a shoemaker, and he wanted to have a place to make shoes in town. He struck a deal with the selectmen, and I have the paperwork to prove it. He built that there, and they let him build it there. If he would just one hand would wash the other. If he would put a water pipe in, which was Lone Common in the town hall, and that water pipe went down this way, down behind Mr. Jackson's house, down to a pump station and a cistern down on Hobbs Brook. That pump station, it's still there. The cistern is still there. It's a fieldstone cistern right in Hobbs Brook. And the pipes would come up there, up to behind Jackson's house on Charlton Street. There'd be a pump house there. It would pump water up here. It would take care of these houses here, take care of the shoe factory, the town hall, and this area here. So let them lease the land. Why not? It was a public works project in a way. It eliminated the curb. That they built that, or I think it was around 1854, and it was out of business, and it was torn down in 1892, sometime around then. And then our library was built a couple of years later, right on top of that place. Here's the building again. This is a scene of the early agricultural fair here, where there are a bunch of gentlemen sitting around talking, probably over coffee. And this house is the Haynes House, center office building. The factory, the Congregational Church right here, which is now the Federated Church, which is no longer this, where the burnt down is a town hall. To get your bearings there. About 1940, the town hall. A lot of the houses, the trees here were here when Lafayette was here. Lafayette came to town on his tour of America, sort of his farewell tour in 1824, and he stopped in here in town, on the Common. And in fact, this coming September 2024, there is a 250th anniversary of that, and they're going to stop here in town doing their retracing the entire tour that Lafayette did. And there's a big celebration here. They said there's close to 3,000 people on the Common in 1824. But those trees here, and the trees in front of the public house, those aren't there anymore. Were there when he was here. 2023. Except for the vehicle, not much has changed. There's still a lot of fairs. There's the Harvest Festival in the fall, and during the summer, on Sundays, you can get your produce on the thing. There's also the Common concerts every Thursday night in the winter weather. It's warmer in the Common. A lot of people have used this Common. There's an ice rink in the winter. It's still a common piece of land for everybody in town. The Chamberlain Block, we refer to as the piece of land where Sadie Green's is right there. The interesting thing about this is this gentleman here, this bicycle is probably a wood frame, a wooden bicycle. But this building here is different from any other building here on the Common. The difference is that it's totally made of brick. The rest of the houses are all wood frame houses on all around the column. There's no brick houses. That one is. What the reason for that is, I don't know. But it sort of stands out. It's painted in white right now. You'll notice when you go by again. Oh. Post office. These lanterns right here, those are all gas lanterns. Port oil lanterns, they weren't gas. You don't see a pipe here. I don't believe, and I don't think they were gas, because there wasn't gas lines here in town. They're all for whale oil or kerosene. Does anybody recognize the inside of this store? Exactly. 10 Henrys. Before it said Sadie Green's became Sadie Green's, it was 10 Henrys. And it was another convenience store. Now, we've had convenience stores all over town. Think of this. They just, Latour's, variety store, 10 Henrys, Cumberland Farms. Over the years, it is slow, gradual changes. This is all history. This is recent history, but it's all history. There is Sadie Green's today. Bob caught this beautiful shot on a sunny day, right as the leaves were beginning to change. And we can go on all night with the public house. We're not going to do that tonight, but we're going to touch on it. This was originally called the Elms House. They went through a bunch of different incarnations at the time. It was used for a women's house. A bunch of women would live here at one time. It was a hotel at the Elms. The interesting thing about this, and Bob pointed this out to me, this is around 1908. This carriage house store is still there. It's still used to go to the main desk. It's still there. This barn here is out there, the frame store. Here, you can't really see it, but there's a sign there that says gasoline's for sale here. And there was a whole bunch of cars around the roads like 1908. They were horseless carriages, but if you're selling gasoline for the little loaders that the farmers had that would run their corn huskers, their washing machines and things like that, that's why all the gasoline was sold. And their tractors. They weren't running steam with this like they were using gasoline for their tractors. But they sold gasoline right up here. Gasoline for sale. And then there's also, what else go better with gasoline than cigars? So you can buy cigars and get your gasoline as well. That building's no longer there. It blew up. Now, this is really interesting. I'm sorry to see this. You're not going to be able to see this too well. Let me put the mic down. Let's see if I can. I want you to look right here. See that? Right there. See what that is? On top of the post. That's Ruth. It's a 2-year-old girl. She's the daughter of the man who owned this house. His name was Alvin H. Chamberlain. And he was the supervisor of the Snell Manufacturing Company in Fiskdale, who made the augers. This is his house. There was a custom back around there in 1883 to mount your daughter on a post. So when the mailman came, she could take the mail and... It's not true. But you could hear it here. Now, this is interesting. This here house was built, well, this is a picture of 1883. Do you notice this? It's a colonial house. It's got 2 front doors, a whole bunch of windows, 12 over 12 windows. They changed. This was all in vogue back in the day. They want to change things over, and they do a HGTV takeover back then. What they would do is they cut the roof. That chimney there is the exact same chimney here. They just cut it off here. They changed it all, and they put another room upstairs. They changed out the windows, they made them 1/1. They put a whole new, and they neatened it up. Some of the arts and crafts type of thing. But this is what everybody was doing in the country. You had an existing building that was good, but it was just old. We wanted to do something different with it. And this is what they did. 1979, there's not much difference. Little 2-year-old roof is inside. (1941). This is in probably fall of 1941. October 1941, this public house and the government, the state government, started the Sturbridge Defense Center. And there'll be a talk on that later on in the spring. But the Sturbridge Defense Center was a state organization to train the state guard. Because the National Guard, okay, it was probably going to be shipped overseas if we had gone to war. The war didn't start until December. But the interesting thing about this, for about 2 years' time that the state was here, and then the federal government came in here, the Army came in, the United States Army came in here. They trained people here, right in the backyard, how to do guerrilla warfare. It was quite phenomenal. But one of the interesting things is this, you'll notice. These gentlemen are black. They're members of the 366th Division. And they're very unusual because they're the only black regiment in the United States history that had no white officers leading them. They were on their own, they were entirely independent. They had their own motor pool, hospital, everything. And they were, no other black unit during the war was like that at all. They're all attached to other regiments, but led by white officers. 1941, they were their own people. When the war started, they trained here further, and they were shipped to Italy. And the gentlemen that were trained here, the book, the lady wrote about this whole infantry group, and the training here at Fort Devens. One of the members that trained here, due to his valor in Italy, who won the Medal of Honor. And then we'll talk about it in May. But this is very unusual. Right here, right where we are right now, is there's outdoor dining in that deck right there, beside here. And the bake shop is over this way. The first Service Command Tactical School, federal government. Around the same time. 1965, a couple of things to notice here. You know, if you lived here all your life, you really don't notice the changes that are so subtle that's happened here. These two trees, they were definitely here when Lafayette stopped here at the first celebration and welcome. And he was supposed to have a meal here, but he didn't. He had to get down to Connecticut. He didn't stop, but they did have a party. Anyway, this tree was taken down in the 1970s. I do have some pictures of that at home, gentlemen taking that tree down. But if you notice here, the amount of land between the front door and here is a great piece of lawn. 131 has been widened a couple of times, and worked a couple of times since that time, 1965. There's that carriage house door. The same door, the same entry, and they've treated it and respected it the same way as you saw in the early pictures of the elms from the 1880s. This is 1978. What happened? Yeah, that was a blizzard. Blizzard of 78. Does anybody remember this? The bake shop in the back. That was right up behind us. Right here. Up here. The bake shop, it burned down. It seems like a lot of buildings in town that happens. But the bake shop and Brother Jonathan's. But this was, so many people have worked there as a teenager. Now, Bob pointed this out. Those blueberry muffins are $2.75 a dozen. That's like 21 cents a piece. I had to mortgage my house to get a muffin. But that's a great price. these young ladies here selling the goods here. They also said the baked goods and the gifts. If you go back, I just want to go back here just a bit. Over here was the Yankee Workshop. It was a little store. They had the Yankee Workshop where across from, it's called Yankee Peddler now. But that was the main store before they moved up, I think, to Maine. But they had another little office, another little shop right here. The Scarecrow Contest, which was sponsored by the Public House for many, many, many years during the Harvest Festival on the Common. It recently was taken over by the town. The town recreation department has taken it over, and this year had a great turnout for that. 2023, the Harrington family, which owns the public house, has done so much more to this. This is what it looks like now from the rear. We're right here. Bob has been flying over Sturbridge since 40, 45 years or so. And when Bob was in the air, with a friend of his, in a helicopter, he passed this past summer. He took many, many pictures. You're going to see more in a few minutes. But that he finally found somebody with a plane, and he went up there this fall. Roms, well, no longer Roms, but Teddy G's, but it was Roms. That pizza and ice cream spot. We all remember the restaurant and the tables inside, the beautiful view, and the buffet. The Second Hobbs book. A lot of people had a lot of feelings on that when it was being built. Didn't take long for it to go up. There's Walmart. Walker Pond over that way. It's 2023 when Bob went up a couple weeks ago. There's this building here, and this huge building here are the refrigerated storage places that we just built in town. A lot of changes there. The solar plant area, which is connected to another solar place over the side across from Extra Mart. This is probably the most significant thing. I'll show you this pretty quickly. I don't want to go over our lot of time here, but this area here is no longer. This is still there, it's soon to be gone. Noble Gas Station is here now. It's going to open up around December 1st, by the way. I finally got everything done. Everything's okay with the state. Hall Road, right here. This is all built upon now. And this little motel here is gone. 2023, it's changed a lot. Noble Gas is still being built. The little, used to be the Sturbridge truck stop, which was used by the towing company now, while they're building their new place down on Route 20 over towards the Brookfield line. That'll be torn down at electrical vehicle discovery centers that we put right there by the same Mr. Frisbee who built this building here. It's going to be placed right here. That's going to be torn down. And when they get the okay, there's going to be lights here, but when they get the okay for a better solution for the lights and stuff, they'll put the building in. You notice here, Route 20, this is 1988 looking westbound on Route 20. You see this building here, the little breakfast place here. The Cornerstone Bank is there. Where Steve's Collision is in this area here. Hall Road goes up that way. And here's the Colonial Motel. Pistol Bond is right there. Yeah. Give you some sort of bearings of where everything is. In 1999, the hotel was built there on the pond. There was a hotel behind here too. They tore it all down. They kept a couple of the units for themselves. This is where Extra Mart and Cracker Barrel are today. This little place here was I believe it was a pizza restaurant at one time. Today, 2023, lots changed. There's Wendy's, Cracker Barrel, In this area here, there's going to be some changes as well. Last I knew, and it made right in that area, there was to be a Starbucks and an urgent care building to be placed in those houses that have been for sale for 25 years. It's going slowly. I'm not exactly sure if the deal is done yet, though. This section here is our last section. Things that have gone on forever. Anybody? Anybody recognize this? Now, I was told that this Howard Johnson's here burned. And they relocated down to 15, down where Sparrows and Roy Rogers was. And then they beat Sparrow and Roy Rogers took it over. Another building. This one here is in Fiskdale, post office, the Fiskdale post office. Bob, this was on the north side of Route 20? Yeah. And whereabouts was it located? Yeah. It's does anybody have an idea where this building was? I think it was on the north side. I was trying to figure out exactly where it was.
Wasn't it where McNuck's is?
It possibly could have been exactly where McNuck's is, yeah. And the Lockington, the oldest block was right here.
That's on Cumberland Farm property today.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. The Unitarian Church. That's on Main Street. And that's right where the post office in Sturbridge is today. In 1922, the Baptist Church in Fiskdale and the Unitarian Church in Sturbridge joined together with the Congregational Church, became the Federated Church. This building here was demolished soon thereafter. Anybody remember this? This building here was the Octagon House. There was many of them built in New England at the time. They thought it was better for them to build this way for ventilation. This was workers' housing for Snell Auto Company. This is on Snell Street, and there was a lot of houses that were built that way for the housing, for the workers down there. This was torn down, no, it was burned, purposely burned by the fire department back in the mid-60s because it was a controlled burn. This was the Poor Farm, which was, I'm trying to exactly I can tell you what it was, where Route 15 came, where 84 comes up to 131, in that area there, behind Hometown Bank, in that section there. Not exactly sure, it's actually before you get to the DPW sheds, that's where the Poor Farm was. Dr. Timothy Newell, I think, owned the house, built the house originally back in the 1700s. This is the last shot. Those buildings there are gone. They're just gone forever. This one here, everything here you see here is pretty much exactly the way it was 100 years ago. There hasn't been any really change. The color of the house has changed. The streets have been paved. But we've been pretty much static the whole time. If you're new to town, that gives you a pretty good synopsis of what was here before and where we are today. The thing is, we have to conserve and preserve what we have. Things happen. We've lost a beautiful historic property up and down the road, the farmhouse there. We lost the building right down there where CBS is now. And we do have a demolition delay bylaw in town that keeps everything without being demolished for a year while we figure something out. But it's difficult. It's difficult. Sometimes you just can't do it. You can't hold on to things. Before I sign off and let Sandy take over the microphone, the things we have here, a lot of these photographs are come from Bob Arnold. And Bob Arnold, being a photographer for the past 40 years, has gone through all over town, not only in the air, but around on foot, and documented and chronicled the entire town. And he'll continue to do that. When you think about it, after you leave tonight, think about the things you have at your house. The things, years ago, you may have had family meetings at the pond up at Big Allen or something like that. But these are all historical items. And a lot of them back in the time of your grandparents, or even your parents, even when you were young. That's historical stuff. try and hold on to that. There'll be a time in probably the next year or so, Bob was thinking he had done this in another town as well. He had brought his very high resolution scanner, and they had a meeting, and you brought your things, and he scanned a lot of the historic things for the town, and put them on discs, so we preserve them forever. And they give the original back to the person that they were reading. We probably plan on doing something like that too. And it's just not photographs. It could be, a high school program for graduation from 1954. That's still pretty important. I had managed in the public house in 1940. I was given VHS tapes by Marianne Argetis from the 250th parade, anniversary parade, and ball. And they're quite remarkable. It's only been 35 years, but it's nice to be able to see that younger selves and everything in there. And it's nice to hear the sound. So I've just spent the past week or so digitizing them and putting them on little thumb drives. And going to be giving them to the town, the Sturbridge community TV, and they're going to put them online so you can watch them anytime you want. But if you have anything like that, 8mm movies and things like that, we really like to see them and preserve them and keep them forever. And not another person, but that'd be really nice. So I want to thank you all, and thank Mr. Bob Arnold for the photography.
Yeah, if people have a question, we can stay here a few more minutes. People have questions or comments, things you want to add? Anybody?
You remember when the town clerk used to be in the Chamberlain building?
Yes.
Village Center?
Yeah, that was, they were in the Chamberlain, but it was Chamberlain, wasn't it? That was the town clerk. Yeah, they were there, yeah, and that was the store as well. Anybody else, any questions? Yes?
The shoe factory near the common, is that the library now?
That's where the library is now. They tore down the shoe factory in 1892. They took it
94, just
94.
before,
And they,
before they built the library.
yes, exactly. And then a lot of the places and parts, the machinery and stuff ended up all over town, in barns and stuff like that. And then they built the library there in the same building.
And actually, the shoe factory closed, I can't remember exactly when, but the shoe factory closed, and there was a roller rink there for a bit before they took it down. So that I've seen information about that they used it as a roller rink, which I find kind of interesting. Yes.
I was told a number of years ago that the ground school for the Navy aircraft, Navy flyers, was here at the public house. Ted Williams went to ground school there. That ever,
There was the U.S. Army was here.
I'm sorry?
The U.S. Army was here. There wasn't the Navy, but the U.S. Army was here. In the very beginning, in the fall of 41, right before the war,
There was the state decided to have a training facility for the State Guard. The State Guard was different than the National Guard. And what that was the National Guard was going to be nationalized for overseas work. Who was going to take care of the country where we're going? They decided to train themselves. Shortly thereafter, the federal government came in after war was declared, and they took it over. So it was all Army at the time. Not to say that Ted Williams didn't stop by here. I got on one of his bond Liberty bond runs and things like that. But he was Army Air Force, wasn't he? Or was he Navy?
He was in the Marine.
He was a Marine? Yes, he'd be Navy. So
The fellow that told me said he went to ground school here, and he was a Navy fighter pilot on aircraft carriers.
Just in case, the conversation is that he was told that by someone who went here that he was the Navy ground school was here at one time. So we need to look into that. Yeah. Good. Thank you. Yes. Your question.
Yeah, I was wondering about that big park that you talked about behind us. What's down there?
I'm sorry. Behind where?
Oh.
Behind J.C. Penney?
Oh,
that part, that was
It's called Fairview Park. And that's where the trolley would stop and drop people off. And it was like a typical park. It had vendors and trails and lights and stuff like that at night. A little pond area for canoe rides with your favorite
Is
person.
it still there?
You know, there's ruins there. It's all private property now, the backs of houses and things like that. But in the woods there's the ruins of the stone walls and what once was. When J.C. Penney came, a lot of that stuff was taken away. But there's still remnants of it back there.
It was actually, that area was actually built by the trolley company for, you know,
Yes.
to take people there and back, because that was one of the, that was, you know, when it came in, it was purposely there so people would have a place to
We
go.
need one now.
It would be nice. Anybody else? Oh, thank you all.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more.
Another question. The Blackington building, originally, when you walk in there, it's an antique place, it's a couple of things. But when you go upstairs, the rooms are very large, and it really looks like a ballroom or, and my husband and I just tried to figure out what things used to be, and it really looks like a schoolhouse.
It was a union hall.
It's a music hall, and it was
The
a,
union hall was Mills.
it was a what?
Union.
Oh, the Union Hall.
Yeah.
But there wasn't there a theater up there at some point in time
There's a
too?
stage up there.
Yeah, there's a stage, that's what I was thinking, but it was a Union Hall, okay, good to know.
Okay, thank you.
And actually, one of the times, I know that the other thing that they used to do too, boy, really, I think up into the, somebody else is gonna have to help me out, 40s or 50s, is that they would drop off from the library, there would be a regular drop-off of books in that building into one of the shops there, I think weekly. So you, if you were on that end of town, you could order, you could, you know, say you wanted books and stuff, and then you could return them there, and they would be dropped off there as well. Yes.
Talking about the Blackington building. Right side of the Blackington building, on the left-hand side, there's a small little house in there. It's a little gray house. I was told that this is originally the Sturbridge hose house, the original fire department here in town.
I don't know anybody, I don't know that, anybody know that? Hose House? Yes, Bob?
He's correct.
Okay.
Bob, do you know how that happened? How did the Otis block get referred to as the Blackington building?
A local attorney changed the name.
Who did?
A local attorney. And I said back then, it's not Blackington. Blackington ran the pharmacy at the end of it, where the pizza shop was. But it never came under the name of the Blackington building. It's always been the Otis block. To us people who have been here a while, you know.
Right, so there are people that only know it one way, people that know it a number of ways, and I think that's what happens over time, so we need to remember and pay attention to what's there. And so, I always used to tell people, I work for the Preservation Society in Worcester, you know, never mind what's, don't always just look at the first floor, look up. Look up and see what's up above. You see what's on the second floor, what's written there, etc. There's always, you can find like dates of when they're built and little insignias and things. Always look up. That's my good advice. Anyways, thank you all for coming tonight. We appreciate it.